Hello, welcome to ELA 9 Distance Learning, a YouTube lesson series about argumentative essay writing with me, Mr. Smith. Today, we have video number 10, a lesson about final draft writing. This is going to be a shorter, simpler lesson where we talk about the format of writing your final draft. What I also want you to notice is we originally had 13 lessons here scheduled and structured, but I realized after thinking about it that we really were only going to need 12. So I cut our baker's dozen number of lessons down into a final number of 12 lessons and put the submission into video 12 and final editing we really already have here coming up in video number 11. So you basically have the next video is going to be about the edit after you finished your or you've typed your final draft or you worked on your final draft, and then the checklist of what you need to submit and how you're going to submit it, and then the actual submission of that coming up in a week from tomorrow. So all the videos will be done a week early, and that's the goal. Just again, like, subscribe. Still don't know where my camera is. Right there. Like, subscribe. Somewhere down here, around here. I don't know where it is. You'd think I would know, but like and subscribe. And then we'll get into today, like I said, a very simple lesson about how you're going to format this essay, right? What we want to do is we want to talk about the structure for formatting. Now, this is going to, first of all, really only be based off of if you are typing. Is it required that you type this final copy? No. I'll say it again. I'll say it several times. Is it required that you have to type this final copy? No. If you don't have access to a computer at home and you want to handwrite the whole thing, fine, absolutely. Then everything that I'm talking about here would be done the same way on a handwritten, in pen, blue or black ink sheet of paper. But it's the same rules will apply. It's just you're not going to be handwriting in Times New Roman font, but you're still going to be handwriting final copy, not in pencil, but in blue or black ink, and it's going to be a final draft. It's going to be a nice draft, right? But I don't want people to think that they have to do a final typed copy. I would like that. It's easier. It's easier for submission if you do, and you want to email it to me, or you want to send it to me through talking points, or you want to take a picture of it. But like I said, and I'll say it again, if you can't type it and you want to handwrite it, you can still handwrite, you can still get full credit. So what does this mean? Well, if you're going to type your final copy, then these are the structures that you have to do and what you have to do and how you have to set it up. So what we're talking about here basically is the format, the structure. So when we're talking about formatting your paper, first of all, we're talking about MLA. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, which I've talked about in class before, but I will reiterate. The idea here is that when you write a paper for a different course, the way and the course in which you write is going to depend on how you write it. So if you write oftentimes for social studies, and this is not 100%, but in social studies, oftentimes the higher grades will ask that you write in a structure called Chicago style. And humanities, like specifically language or English, I would say we're going to be writing an MLA. And then there's other structures as well that ask for other things. APA is more of a scientific, psychological format or science format. And then there's hundreds of different structures that you can use to write. But we're talking about MLA. That's why you see right here, MLA. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and that's the way that we write our papers. And this is what it means. First of all, when you type your paper, it's going to be on regular paper. Regular white paper is 8.5 by 11 inch. If you ever didn't know that, then you can win a Jeopardy question right there. The font that we like to use is Times New Roman in 12-point font, not bold, regular style. No italics, no cap. Like some people type in all caps. Some people put their stuff underlined. You do not need to do any of that stuff. And we'll talk about that when we look at our sample in a second. You want to only put one space after your periods. We'll also look at what it means. I kind of skipped over this to double space. Some people think that after their words, they put two spaces. That's not what it means to double space. Double space is an extra line of spacing between your lines, which makes it easier for the reader to read, and it makes it easier for the scorer to assess and put lines in the lines between your writing. So you're going to do that, and then we'll show you how to do it. a couple different ways. So leave only space after punctuation. The margins are something you usually do not have to worry about. The default or the standard is 1 inch on all sides. If people go in and mess with their margins, that's when you can see that, the margins might be squished in on the top or on the bottom or the sides. You shouldn't have to worry about your margins. That's why I wrote here, do not worry about your margins, because most of the time they're 1 inch from the top, 1 inch from the bottom, and 1 inch from the sides. And then finally, this is another mistake a lot of people tend to make when they're writing, is they indent by hitting spacebar like 15 times. You don't need to do that. When we type, what we'll do is we'll use the tab key for our indents, and I'll also show you how to do a really perfect title that's centered every time and not something that you have to guess where the center is. And then when you print it, it's all messed up. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this right now. So if you're typing, I recommend using something along the lines of Microsoft Word. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you need to use something else. Again, that's fine. But Microsoft Word is what I'm using here so I can show you the process. So I opened up the document. The first thing I like to do is I like to set up my paper for successful typing. I don't want to have to change things in the middle of it, so I like to set it up in the beginning. So the first thing that I do is I make sure that my font right here is Times New Roman. If it isn't, and if I don't know what any of these things do, I will just hover over them and it will tell me. So this is my font because it just says font, and I'll change it to Times New Roman. If this, I don't know what it is, font size. So I want it to be 12, so I put it to 12. So now I have 12 Times New Roman font, and that's what it says right here. Now, the only other thing that I said I needed to do is I need to have this double spaced. Now, some people will make their own double spacing. I would rather the computer do it for me. So if you go up here in Microsoft Word, up here is where you have your alignment. We'll talk about that in a second to do our title. But over from the alignment is line and paragraph spacing. All I want to do is click this little arrow. Right now, I'm single spaced. I want to change it from single, which is 1.0, to double, which is 2.0. Now I'm double spaced. That's simple. So the first thing I need to do before I do anything else is I need to put my heading in. So for my heading, the first thing I want to put in is my name. I'm going to type my name. Head joke, right? So my name, and then I'm going to click enter. You would put your name, obviously, and then you put the name, the next line of your teacher, Mr. Smith. Hit enter to the third line down. The third line down, you would put the class. So the class that you have would be English 9, and then the period 2, right, we'll say. And then the last thing that you have to put down would be, any guesses? The date, right? So I have a whole bunch of different schools of thought. Some people tell me they put the date that they finish the paper. Some people put the date that they start the paper. Some people put the date of the assignment. I'm not a stickler. I don't care. I always tell people put the date that they're working on it, the date that they finish it, if that's fine for them. If they want to put the date that it's due, so that way they know they turned it in on time, that's fine. For anybody who doesn't know, the date that it's due is April 14th, which is a week from tomorrow. So I'll put that to help people out. April 14th, comma, 2020. The one thing you notice is I write the full date out. If I'm writing a proper formal paper, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go 04/14/2020. That is a little too informal. For everything else that we have up here, this doesn't look as good. So we go back to what I had, which is writing the full date out, right? 14th, 2020. So we have our heading. I'm going to hit enter one more time. And now I'm down to this next line. Now I want to go back up here because I need to put my title. Now there's two schools of thought with the title. First of all, we want to just make sure right here, center text. Don't guess. Some people will hit the space bar a bunch of times and try to figure out where the center is. If you click right here, it will put it perfectly in the center for you. Now, if you don't know what your title is right now, that is fine. Do this. Title. And then keep going. But if you do know your title, then you can put it here. What you'll also notice is I don't put underlining, I don't put bold, I don't put cap locks, I don't put any of that fancy stuff. You just need the title, nothing else. So I'm going to pretend like I don't have my title yet, because then I can come back later on because I want to focus on my other stuff. So at this point, I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to put me back down to center. What I have to do is I kept my cursor up here because I know I have to go back and align left. So now I'm way back over here, and if you remember, the way that we tab in is by hitting tab. Now I can start typing. So I would start typing my paper here. There are many ways to type paper, right? So like, and then I would keep typing. And if I type and type and type and type and type, you'll notice that it double spaces. So you see this extra space between here? That's the double space. It's not, between words. So when you're all finished, this is what your paper is going to look like. It's going to have that heading up here. It's going to have your title right here in the center. It's going to be in Times New Roman 12-point font, and you're going to probably be somewhere in the front and back, 2 full pages. People will ask, can it be, if it's printed front and back? Yes. Can it be 2 separate pages and stapled? Yes. Again, I'm not going to be a huge stickler when it comes to this, style. Like if it's on a front and back, okay. If it's 2 separate pages and you staple it, okay. That's the type of thing where I'm not going to worry too much. So that's the formatting of our paper. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll get back into, for our next video, when that's done, how you final edit, and then how you submit. Have a good one.